for like half a week or a week.
Yeah, basically, that's where we're at. I'm trying to make sure everything's good, and go from there. Can't really say too much else beyond that, but chat to everybody tuning in. Welcome back to the Crossover Podcast. As you can tell, Paul's not here again. His ass is on vacation, enjoying life away from esports as his esports org crumbles and falls beneath him. Couldn't possibly be better though. He sent me a picture. He was sipping a Truly on the beach and just having a good time. But instead, to preview finals, before getting into the esports winter talk later, I've got everybody's favorite C9 fan, Nick Blujamir, cocky asshole, whatever you want to call him. He's here.
Yeah, the hell with Paul. I don't like that guy anyways.
You two always seem like you got along decently well.
No, I love Paul.
So how you feeling? Teams in the finals. You guys dropped what, one game this entire playoff?
Actually, the last time we did that, we lost. The only games we lost were to CLG, ironically. So I feel like it's a repeat.
Was that 2020? Whenever they made the run, CLG was the only loss too.
No, it was the 100 Thieves one. Where we stomped 100 Thieves 3-0, and I went home by 7:30.
Oh no, I know you're talking about last split's finals. I'm saying C9 had one other finals or like playoff run where they only lost one game the entire time, and it was 2020 spring. Back when you had like.
Yeah, no, I thought that was the 100 Thieves run.
No, we were not good. 2020, I think, was the year the FlyQuest finished second twice.
Oh, well, hopefully we'll just, get the dub. Easy peasy. Well, it depends on who we face, I think. Honestly, I think FlyQuest is a harder opponent. Although, by how much, who can say?
You really don't think Golden Guardian stands a chance?
I think they stand a chance. I think they don't stand as much of a chance.
I would argue that I think they stand a better chance against you guys than anybody.
Do you remember the oh god, they do it at Worlds, the 90-50-10?
Oh yeah.
90% chance Cloud9 wins, 50% chance FlyQuest wins, 10% chance Golden Guardians wins.
I would flip the 50-10 personally.
Well, you hate FlyQuest, so.
It's not that I hate FlyQuest. It's just that I think Golden Guardian's ability to draft on red side is unparalleled from anybody in the LCS right now, barring Cloud9. And there's a clear world where I think they can just be smarter than FlyQuest is and hold on in the early game to win it.
I don't know. I think Cloud9 is, again, just leagues ahead.
Oh, I agree.
Personally, I have no bias there, but
it's a 3-0 C9 in the finals no matter what for me. Like, I don't care who they play, whether it's FlyQuest
or... were you asking about... Oh, I mean, if you wanted me to predict the semifinals...
Yeah, the semifinals.
I mean, the losers' finals really is what should be called.
Yeah, well, that's what it is.
Or the culmination of the stupidity of the double elimination bracket. But, we won't go there. I'd rant for like 2 hours about how it, like, completely fucks over somebody who doesn't do any losing. But, here we are.
Yep.
I mean, the one upside is the whole MSI change, where even if you're second place or whatever, you go to MSI.
Yeah.
I like that. It gives a little bit of a reward. Well, I guess it still doesn't reward the first place person that doesn't lose at all. Like whoever strangles their way through the winners bracket still gets no tangible reward. In fact, it rewards the person who didn't even win, too, which actually makes it worse now. Because
then you get to go through play-ins, get that warm up prior to hitting group stage.
Play-ins, the play-ins warm up classic. Remember when I forget when did C9 do that and just fucking
literally almost every year, and that was 2018 that they most
2018
notably...
where they're just like, let's learn how to play the game again. It reminded me of a more macro sense of the Meteos takes 70 minutes to learn how to play Lee Sin and then kicks Lee Sin or kicks Varus to win the game. Like a more macro sense of that. Like let's relearn how to play the game and then do some winning. But I don't know. I would say that like I think FlyQuest is more. It's this GG is the same as I feel is the same ended up the same as CLG in that their parts aren't very good, like in the sense of there's no standout, giga star.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But their teamwork and like their team play is kind of just leagues above a lot of other teams. And the question is whether that will matter or whether, Prince and Gory will just smash their lanes so that, the team play doesn't matter as much. Um, so we'll see. Those that's what I think matters is just because there's no, I don't know, there's if you start talking about the deep stuff like someone's got better blue side macro or red side macro, then I feel like you fall into the trap of okay, well, whoever has blue side 3 times wins the series. Shrug,
To be
you
fair,
know?
I'm not saying it's blue side or red side macro. I'm saying the counter picks. That has nothing
Yeah.
to do with macro. That just has to do with champ pool. Anytime
What
that
I
you can counterpick people and get advantages in lane and hopefully snowball that elsewhere, like that has nothing to do with side selection. That's just red side will always inherently have that advantage if you have a team that has a champ pool deep enough to do it.
I think that only actually matters as much when like superstars get their counter picks or like lane
Or like the
people who
rumble
will
into the Malphite situation
no
from like this
no
past.
no more like it's more important if you're playing with that mindset. It's more important that like Faker gets the counter pick than like in turn if it's GG like Gory. Gory is not like a superstar. You know what I mean? Like it's more tangible when it's like someone who can really fucking take advantage of it and kind of run it down. And when you have a team that's like better than the sum of its parts, you don't have as much. I don't feel you gain as much advantage from that. Do you get what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. I just don't think. I don't know. And Eminus is the opposite of that. Obviously, I think like if you put him on a counter champ, he's gonna shit all over the opponent.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about him being, just the sum of whatever the team's strength is. So red side is more valuable to teams like C9 and um,
Golden Guardians.
no, Golden Guardians are the ones that are better at team play. I'm
Yeah,
talking
but
Vikla and Prince. Although Vikla's been running it down, so
I see. I don't necessarily agree with that though. I like if you're. There's no way you could tell me that FlyQuest is a better red side team than
no,
Golden
I'm not saying
Guardians.
overall better red side. I'm just saying when you have the counter pick advantage, if you have a superstar who's way better than his lane opponent, that red side advantage is more tangible.
Not
Do you know what I
really.
mean?
I would argue it's
You think
worse
so?
because if you have a superstar that you know is going to pick one or two things, it is easy to draft against that. And saving counter pick for them at the end is kind of irrelevant. That's arguably what 100 Thieves did.
Yeah. Yeah, now that I think about it, it didn't really bear out theory didn't really bear out too hard.
No.
Um,
It like it again
it's,
I
it's
I
it
agree
sounds
with
good in theory, but it's like
it does. And
100 Thieves kind of got destroyed on the back of that.
I agree with your point of it. But the caveat that has to be added to that is you have to have a champ pool deep enough
I will
for that
say,
to
I think
work.
I think with 100 Thieves and having her double lift, I think it was more of a meta read because he was talking after that series and saying, God, Jinx priority was just like, what the fuck? Why? Because he can play any champ really well and probably shit on anybody really well. But if the meta isn't good on it, then it's just not. It's like in theory, Blabber could pick Olaf every game, but he doesn't. You
I,
know,
yeah, the bigger problem with 100 Thieves though was
I think it's
apparently
the meta.
the Jinx pick was a band-aid to fix other problems that existed on the team. So it wasn't necessarily that the pick was, bad in the meta or anything else. It's like they needed to pick Jinx to have any semblance of knowing how to team fight and how to macro. And even then
Yeah.
that fell apart fairly quick.
Oh man,
So,
what are we doing talking about losers who aren't even in the finals? Ah, foolish on my part.
I mean, technically, look, people can shit on 100 Thieves all they want. We were one minion away from
I
making
love,
making
I
sure the
love
Golden
Hundred
Guardians
Thieves.
wasn't here.
No, I like Hundred Thieves at the end of the day, and it's funny. It's funny you say that though. Like, it's one of those things where it's like yeah, 1 minion away, but it's like there's so much that led up to that. You know what I mean? It's like to
Yeah.
put yourselves in that situation. Like the 100 Thieves I know, and the skill level of Double Lift and Bjergsen that I know, it should have been 3-0, but it's
Oh,
not
it
because
should have been, but
specific.
also the skill level of Bjergsen's not what you know.
Yeah, it's honestly trash. I feel bad. I don't know what's wrong. Like maybe he's just old. I don't know.
The thing
Just
that worries me is like I listen to their comms now, and it's Bjergsen shot calling, and it doesn't seem. I don't know. He doesn't seem like
I
he's thinking
really
5 steps ahead.
I really feel like teams flow well when support and jungle are the most vocal people,
Agreed.
and that's Sven and Blabber for Cloud9, and they're both fucking killers.
Yep.
Like they will not hesitate. And I think that like if you're a mid is a hugely like your attention is pulled in 47 different directions, and a lot of it is your own lane, right? And
Yep.
so it's like it's really hard to fucking sit there and be like, have the mid do this. It's like Golden Guardians, the most vocal person is
Who he?
Huhi. Yeah, and he's the support. And they're I don't think that River's that communicative. Um at least in
He
some of the
apparently is from what the interviews say. Apparently River and like you said, River and who he make almost all the calls.
Yeah, I'm gonna just guess that Busio was just not a fucking verbal guy. Like
Not not off the
It's
rip, but
funny because if you told me pick on player skill, I might even take Busio over Sven. But if
oh,
you
I would
told
too.
me if it's like the Zazel situation. You remember when Zazel in
Yep.
2018? He was so bad. He was so bad. But his fucking macro knowledge
Was
was like
unbelievable.
unbelievable. And so it's like I feel I feel like teams just don't have that success quotient without the correct people, and it's hard to kind of um, luck into, right? Like I feel like teams get baited by like player skill or whatever, you know what I mean? And they end up like not. They look at players' individual skill, but they don't really look at like like the not the mesh, but like the correct roles being the most verbal personalities. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
I do
they're like,
think though
oh,
that
we found a shot caller. Okay, well that's perfect. Um, Someone can shot call, but if it's the wrong person, it's just not going to work. It's like why do you think when High came back, what roles did he play when he came back? Support and jungle.
jungle.
Well,
Yep.
you were too that was before your time, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he talked about it a lot on like the Pro to Pro series
It's
that he was
just
on, so
those roles are just so conducive to success in shot calling, I feel like. And so like and I mean as far as like FlyQuest, um I know Speak is super active. I don't really know Alo that much, but I know Speaka knows what he's doing in terms of like how to mold the map. So to me it's just quite literally it can be borne out in the fact that the three top teams have really solid support jungle um like playmakers.
yeah. I
Uh
agree. And I think that bodes well though that we have these three teams specifically going to international play because you need a good mid jungle duo and then support obviously to help stand a chance to withhold any sort of macro level against any of the international teams. Obviously, C9 hasn't had the best year,
it's so funny because
but
I heard people talking about some shit about like Eminus and Blabber don't have good synergy, and I'm like, well, they're in first place. What are you talking about? And they're crushing it. Like, who's smoking too much weed again?
I don't know.
Like, they might
People,
not be perfect, but like, come on, guys.
no, the problem is everybody compares all of our players to Korea, and obviously we're not Korea. So I don't know what to tell people. Like, I've intentionally avoided talking about MSI uh, pretty much this entire week and week prior to that, just to make sure that people don't start bringing up the the we're gonna shit the bed at Worlds or sorry, we're gonna shit the bed at MSI. Blabbers never performed. Like I just don't want to have those conversations right now. I want to enjoy what we got. So if you had to give me exact score lines for Golden Guardians and FlyQuest, what would you say?
3-2 in a direction. I don't know if I can predict it. Like I just know 3-2, and I think it's gonna go all the way.
Okay. What for you would be a successful spring split for Cloud? Like, do you have to do well at MSI for this to be good for you? Or are you on the camp that just like you win a title, it's all that matters?
MSI is hard. It's the best team from every region. Like
Now the two best teams.
yeah, now the two best teams. Like like it's still not easy. Like conceptually as like a people are like, oh, team didn't do good because of fucking Team Liquid's one really good run in 2019. Nobody ever shuts the fuck up about MSI.
You have yourself to
Super
blame for
hard.
that, sir. You have yourself to
What do you
blame for
mean?
that. Fucking your
We didn't get to
2018.
go in 2020.
No, your 2018 World Semifinals. You started it. TL just
What?
fucking continued it. And CLG technically did it in 2016
No, I'm
or
saying like
2015.
none of those should have been expected almost.
None of them were.
Like that's not what I mean. Uh, what I mean
Words,
is
my
like
friend.
what I mean is like anything we do at MSI that's halfway decent, I'll be pretty damn happy with.
Okay.
At the end of the day, I believe that MSI is a really, really fucking hard event. I even feel bad for the teams that go there because it's so hard. Like, it's the best teams. It's not, and those teams already beat us at Worlds, so it's like when our teams do badly and everyone all surprised, it's like, why are you surprised?
I think
You know what
double
I mean?
elim will help eliminate some of that, to be completely honest. I think if you go to MSI and you make the knockout stage and we either win a close one to Europe or lose a close one to Europe, and then obviously the four Chinese and Korean teams are at the top. I don't think anybody's gonna have that big of a problem with it. All
Yeah,
things considered. At least we shouldn't.
true. I don't know. It's just, it's no easier than Worlds. People think, I don't know, people seem to like mentally, like, it's, I don't know how to,
I get you.
it's a really hard tournament. And just because we don't do anything, it's like congrats, you basically did as well as does at international tournaments. Like why are you surprised? I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're basically coming up against the same teams you're going to see at Worlds for the most part, and we already lose to those anyways. So it's like it goes back to the argument we always have: should we get hyped up for this year's World? You know what I mean? We always
Yes.
have that
The answer
argument.
is
And
the answer is always yes.
well, but MSI is the same way. You either
Well, I mean
believe
for
how
both,
you
to be
believe.
clear.
No, I'm just saying, like MSI, the answer's the same. If you're the person, somebody believes how you do, which I will not comment on, um, is or they don't, right? It's just there's no difference. It's nice. That's
I
nice. I'm glad I was looking at your camera.
I'm ready.
Me
I'm so
too.
ready.
Believe me. I'll be more than happy. Just not. I don't know. I don't really
Yeah, you're not gonna go
value
over the top like
committing.
I will.
I don't really value like score line for MSI, right?
No, I
Like
no,
I
and I'm
just
not. I'm not asking you for that by any means. I don't want you to
I'm
put that out there.
cautiously optimistic for it at the end
So
of the day. Like I'm always cautiously optimistic for C9. So
kicking it back to finals, then, do you
oh
think
yeah.
there's a? Is there any team in particular that you think is gonna crumble playing in front of a crowd, or do you think everybody's on even
Um,
playing field?
who was the last team that got eliminated? Was it
CLG
100 Thieves? No, EG.
or
EG
EG?
was
Yeah.
the last team that got eliminated. I think they would have actually,
Oh, I
even
agree.
worse than they already just did now. Um, but as far as in these finals, no, maybe Eminus, but I don't know.
I'm I'm a little bit worried about Golden Guardians. Licorice, I think, is going to be fine. Obviously, he's played in front of a
I was
crowd
gonna
before.
say, like, yeah,
He,
that dude'll fucking bang your wife and then take you out to dinner.
my dude has nerves of steel when it comes. I mean, he's played in front of the biggest crowds in the world at Worlds, at LCS finals. in 2019. Like I have full faith in him. I also have faith in Stixay. Stixay's been in that environment, even though it's been quite a long time. Uh, I am a little bit worried about Huhi because we still don't know what portion of 100 Thieves tenses up on stage. Because every time that we played in front of a crowd, we got 3-0'd. With the exception of EG last year when we beat a subbed in Kaori in a 5-game series. So, like, not, again, like a series that you would expect to win easily, we struggled heavily with. And then the series that were close, we just got absolutely blown out. And who he was on that roster. So, my question would be, as we're going to find out soon, if Golden Guardians crumbles on stage and who he's the primary shot caller of that team and one of the reasons why they look so good, I think you can just immediately look at it. But at the same time, who he has also played in front of really big freaking crowds back in 2016. So I don't know where I fall on who might have been the problem there.
It's hard to. Oh damn.
They're not happy.
At the end of the day, I think it's really hard to pin down any particular player on either roster or on any of the 3 rosters that I get the sense that they can't play in front of a crowd. I mean, 4/5 of Cloud9 is extremely comfortable, obviously.
Yeah.
FlyQuest, like
it's FlyQuest is actually interesting. It's just Impact.
If I had to pick one person from each team, let me pull up the rosters. If I had to pick one person from each team that would struggle the most with crowd, it would be Eminus, obviously.
Yeah.
Probably Ayla. Just because Vikla and Prince have played in front of crowds before, I'm pretty sure.
Prince has never played in front of a crowd like this. He's only ever played in Lowell Park.
Well,
and we all know that this is a different animal.
For Golden Guardians, I mean, it's got to be either Gory or River.
Yeah. River, like, I think River's been on the international stage enough.
I think Stixay is extremely comfortable.
That's fair. I mean, the thing, you have a lot of pros. Wait, how many people do we have from 2016? We have Huhi, Stixay. Is there anybody else from that roster that I'm missing? No, it's just the 2 of them from MSI. I don't know why I thought somebody from FlyQuest was around back then. I don't know. I legitimately do worry about FlyQuest, though. Spica has never played in front of a crowd. He's got the personality to do well, but at the same time,
what?
I could...
Hold up. What?
Yeah, he hasn't.
What? He was in the finals
and when?
No?
No, 2019 when TSM faced Team Liquid, it was Grig and Acadian. Spica did not get subbed into that roster until the World's Gauntlet or like World's Play-In series that TSM had at the end of the year.
Those are some big crowds. Come on.
That was LCS Arena. We all know there's a difference. True. It is one thing to play in front of 200, 300 people, and it's entirely different to play in front of 10 to 15,000.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah, I can see that.
That is entirely different. Thank you, Flip. Spica's one championship was during the COVID era.
That's why I was thinking. That's why I was like, "What the fuck is he talking about?"
Yeah. Spica's never played on main stage in a stadium before. So
I guess it would have to be him then.
There's a real chance that FlyQuest crumbles under the pressure here.
And do you think Cloud9 is still good enough to win with Eminus crumbling under the pressure?
Oh my god, yeah. Oh my god, yeah. Like if there's one, like I look at C9 and I'll get into this Saturday. I can't really reveal my MVP pick, but I will say this.
Well, it's Berserker.
When I don't think you can, in my eyes, you cannot have an MVP from a team where multiple people were considered for it. or multiple people on your team are considered for it. I don't think
Oh
I
well, you
do
just
not
gave
think
away
that's
that
fine.
it's not on Cloud9.
I didn't say who it was.
There's only two.
There's actually 3. I was
No.
very close to my 3.
Oh, I was talking about the top 5 by vote.
Hmm.
The the thing they released.
Yeah, I know. I've been watching that, and I've seen people like Fudge was robbed. It's like you can't argue that
Fudge was robbed. Fudge was the
nobody on
goat.
C9 was robbed.
That's right. Yes, they were. It doesn't have to be true for me to say it. I mean,
Okay, whatever. I won't go in any more on that. I have to talk about that on Saturday when the vote comes out. But uh
oh yeah, it's right before the thing, isn't it?
yep,
The actual games.
right before the games begin, they will reveal it. Uh I still don't know who won, so I'm curious to see what happens. I have
It's
a feel
Blabber or Berserker.
I have a feeling I know what's going to happen, but I'm hoping another way, but we'll see.
I think it's gonna be Berserker, because they're gonna have Blabber fatigue.
Yeah, I don't want to talk too much more on that. kind of shoot myself in the foot the more we go on about it. But I will say I'm meeting with Degon and all the members of the media that voted, and we're talking about all this at 9 o'clock tonight on Degon's Twitch channel. So for anybody that wants something to do after this episode, we'll be doing that, and it'll be available on his YouTube channel for VOD, and then I'm going to be talking about it in a separate video.
Nice. That's cool.
But we got 2 minutes left. Anything you want to talk about before I move on to esports winner with Joe?
C9 for life, gang. I have a question for him if you'll impart it to. It's more of a culture question than a straight up business question, and you may be able to answer this yourself.
Okay.
Why is it that you don't understand what, like, I guess, money management skills are? Why is Cloud9 the only one who doesn't build a fucking facility and spend $80 billion on shit? Like, why when VC money comes in, everybody loses their fucking minds and is like a mad dash to spend? Why? What is the incentive behind spending it all? Is it because it's a budget like the military, where it's like you lose the budget for every dime you don't spend, or whatnot? It just frustrates me so much.
I'll
About
be
all these billions we spend.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know. And I will ask Joe about that because he's been obviously on that side of things. But I agree with you. I don't understand the massive compounds.
Like, it doesn't
Like,
mean, squirrel it under your mattress. I'm not saying that either. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
like,
like 100
fuck.
Thieves, I get theirs because theirs is almost entirely a production studio. It's offices and a production studio. So like it's their corporate headquarters. But like those that like build out like the full like facility of just like pure esports, I don't get that portion of it because we're not at that point, as you said. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have a good answer. And I'll ask him.
All right. Well,
But
catch you later. It was pleasurable.
adios, my man. Joe, if you're in chat or seeing this, because I saw you followed a few minutes ago, if you want to hop in any of the voice channels in the Discord, I'll be able to drag you in. Nick, thank you as always for coming on. Best of luck this weekend. Are you going to the watch party, by the way?
Yep.
All right, cool. I'll see you there for game 1.
Bye.
Adios. There he is.
Yo, hold on,
The-
I gotta mute your stream and let me turn on my cam too.
The man that really needs no introduction, but deserves one anyways. C-suite at Optic Gaming, VP at NRG, and then decided to fuck all and do something else afterwards.
Yeah, that's for sure.
How you been, man?
I'm good. It's been really interesting to kind of watch how all this has kind of transpired. I'll tell you that ever since I kind of stepped away from the world of esports and competitive gaming. So there's
beyond the titles, do you want to give people a quick rundown of what you did in esports?
Sure. Yeah, I would say most people probably have absolutely no idea who I am. So, and that's kind of how I like it, to be completely honest with you. I'm not a very forward-facing
Says the man trying to make
personality.
it on NASCAR TikTok. I don't want to fucking hear it.
It's a little bit different. There's a reason why, though, on esports, I'd never wanted to be forward-facing, which we can get into, later on. But I worked for NRG for, I don't know, a little over 3 years, directly underneath Andy Miller. Originally, I was mostly just a marketing hire to kind of run that with Corey, who's still there, because they had just gotten the shock and all of that fun stuff. And that kind of progressed into being more of a jack of all trades, operations based, helping with the financials, seeing kind of the inner picture of how everything kind of worked. And then once the franchise league for Call of Duty came around, I did a lot of that with Hector and Andy when we got the Huntsman brand. And then eventually the seas parted and I moved on over to Optic during that kind of transitionary period, and worked directly with Hector on mostly, the business end of stuff for a year until, the MV merger kind of happened. And then I was like, all right, it's time to figure out what's next. So that's a pretty super high level.
Reflecting back on it now, I know we've talked about this privately. I'm not sure how much you want to talk about it publicly, but
Sure.
did you enjoy your time in esports?
Yes, I enjoyed it. I think more so earlier on than towards the end. And that's not a dig towards anybody. It's just basically when I first had started, is like everybody had that dream of breaking into gaming and esports, right? The lifetime gamer. I want to be able to, go and help out this new industry, basically, even though it had been around for forever. Like I was a COD 4 Pro mod player, right? So I'd seen it since like 1.6 in Source and Counter-Strike, this whole thing. And then, once I got into it, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is great. And then as you guys started to see more of the inner workings and kind of learn how it was when I started to get really frustrated, because for me, I had such a passion for it, and just to watch certain things unfold, more so outside of the realm of what I was doing with like NRG and Optic, just more so esports as a whole, specifically like the franchising and all the leagues and seeing the inner workings, was when I started to get really like just more frustrated and irritated that they're really gonna blow this entire thing up. I know that I've been doomsdaying esports for the last
You have.
2 years, which a lot of people have not liked, and probably the reason why I probably don't really do a whole lot much in the scene. But I know I tried to raise a lot of red flags towards others about where I thought this was going financially, and everyone told me I was wrong, and now look where we're at. So
Perfect segue, because guess what? We're right fucking there now. TSM
Yeah.
out, CLG out. The golden land that was League of Legends seems to be crumbling beneath our very feet.
Right.
What I get, obviously you saw part of this coming. I know you were a little bit more weary of the spending that was going on. You were raising
Yeah.
more flags than most were. I know you're not surprised by what's happening now, but are you
No.
worried about, I guess the better question would be, where do you think we need to get to still by the time this quote unquote esports winter is done to actually build a healthy and sustainable ecosystem afterwards?
Oh, it's $1 billion question that every VC and their mother is asking now that put money into this. It's a great question too. To be honest with you, and it's again an answer people are always gonna hate. I really think you need senior management changes across the board at most places. Not all of them, but some of them. I don't know how you can responsibly say that you're growing and doing things right when you lose 50 to 70 million dollars a year. And that's like the whole public thing of what's out, and it's not just them. It's most. Which ones I think are run really well.
Oh, I
from
know
the
that.
inside that you can't see.
But
right?
then you
And
see like the
which ones I think they're
EGLX
not.
shit. You see the
Yeah,
EGLX shit
yeah.
come out and they're bragging about revenues while their fucking OPEX is tripling. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and that's the whole thing, and it's actually really sad. Like, I think now taking a step back from what I had seen in the red flags that I had and kind of my frustrations when I was in the space to where I'm at now, it's actually really sad. Like it's, and I don't think that I wouldn't say that everyone had like ill intention to bring it to this point. Like I'm not going to sit there and say TSM was poorly ran. I've always thought TSM was extremely well ran for the most part, right? Like Walter is one of the smartest people I've ever had the pleasure of speaking with in my life, and even when Parth was there, like he's brilliant, right? Like I don't think anybody bombed TSM. They just got hit by an unfortunate circumstance in FTX, and I was always saying, okay, that's really going to hurt them. And then everyone's like, well, we don't know, we're healthy. I'm like, I don't think you guys understand. When you get that amount of cash, you think that you can expand everywhere, and we saw them starting to try to go overseas and do all these other things, like because you have this pretty much guaranteed revenue, guaranteed as in quotes.
Yeah.
So you start spending it in a certain way to try to, get more market share in all these other areas and increase your revenue and keep going up. And then when it gets all pulled away from you, like, what do you do? Like, you're never going to get that back. No one's ever going to give you that amount of money again. Like, that's just an obscene amount. So it's kind of sad. But then you have others, like we've talked about, the phase thing. I mean, that's even more sad to me, right? Like, one of the biggest brands in the space that basically got killed by greed, corporate greed was kind of what I'd call it. I don't really know the inner workings of all that went on, but from what we've seen on the public forward-facing side and looking at like the SEC filings, like, they're not in dire straits. Like, it's bad, like really bad. And they've come out.
They're just not the same company they were. Like,
no, I think they've lost that.
Yeah, and that's every Fortune 500 company. That's anybody that goes public, with the exception of a few. The moment outside investors come in, the moment people who don't understand, who weren't there from the day it was built from the ground up, it just gets muddy. And at some point, unless you have somebody clear at the top to kind of help guide you through that, you just get lost in the weeds.
Yeah, you're right. And a lot of it too is just most of the time when you get into these like IPOs, or the way they went was a SPAC to get past the whole idea of basically IPOing and all the government regulation attached to IPOs, you always get like the corporate people that kind of get pushed into it from the VCs or from the SPAC or from something like that, oh, we've done this before in another industry, we know where this is going to go. And the biggest gripe that I've ever had with the space, in my opinion, is there's too many outsiders that come in thinking they know what they're doing in this space and try to push it up, and then they just end up like killing what they were trying to do. I mean, how many times have you seen a senior person now that's come into an esports org that's lasted less than a year and a half? There's so many. There's very few of the OGs that are actually left in their positions of power that have come in and done something right. It's, just kind of a revolving door. And the one thing too that people really don't dig into this, like if you look at FaZe, for instance, just on their filings, they let go of their chief strategy officer and their chief legal officer in the last month and a half. But in those filings, they're paying each of them $37,000 a month each to stay on as consultants for 5 months. Chief legal, chief strategy, like, and that's like corporate greed, that's corporate money. Like, no one should be making $37,000 a month when you're losing. Shares went from $10 to 40 cents, and they're selling off all their shares too, right? Like, you can see it. Like, it has to be publicly said when you're an officer if you're selling your shares, and some of them dumped all of them. So it's like, okay, well, I made a bunch of money and I don't really care about FaZe because whatever, I'm on to my next thing. And then you have all these people that put their blood, sweat, and tears into it to build it up to what it was, that just watched their baby crumble. And that's the saddest part for me.
Speaking of the next thing, we're seeing a rise of influencer-led orgs. Not necessarily like FaZe Clan, more like Moist, more like Disguised Toast orgs. You said you love it. I'm a little bit more on the fence. I am worried that we're jumping from one side, which was the VC money, straight to the other of influencer-led orgs. I just want there to be a mix. I want there to be both. There's healthy diversity to be had in having everything. But I'm worried that as an industry, we're just jumping ship entirely to it, and everybody's just piling on. And then once one or two people leave that are within that scene, say Disguised Toast, all of a sudden it's like, I did my stint in esports. Somebody else can take it. Same thing. Loses the brand value. Loses the same perception. Unless you get over that hurdle where, you've made generational fandom that then you can step aside, sure. But that's going to take 15, 16 years.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I love it is because this is the optic way, and something that I learned from Hector. Right. I'll be honest, like Hector, like really drilled this into my head when I got the pleasure of working with him. Was like, content reigns supreme on everything. Doesn't matter what it is. Don't matter how much you win. Content's everything. And those content, creators know that. That's what they built their careers on. So I think that can help tremendously in bringing it in. The one thing that I will say, and the part that I will not like, and kind of going off what you said, is if they come in, they start building this up, and we do this jump right to creator leg orgs, and then they get VC money thrown at them in some capacity, because not only are the VCs going to be going after the organization, but they're going to be going after, let's just say, Disguised Toast and his entire monetization stream, right? Which he's built up carefully over time. And then you run into the same problem where, okay, maybe it's Disguised Toast, but now they want a corporate figurehead to come in and do it. Like, I don't want that. What I would love to see is these creator leg orgs coming in, building up sustainable esports models in some capacity, even if it's not they're playing at the highest level. They're taking like a challenges team in Valorant and trying to build up, you know, that portion and bring eyeballs to the more grassroots level, which is what I think esports needs anyway. And being very weary of the money they spend, because if it's coming out of Disguised Toast's pocket, you're going to be very wary of the amount of cash that you spend in general. If it's coming out of a VC's pocket that's not yours, people don't really worry as much. And you know, not to say that they can't take in excess capital. I think it might be smart to get a small investment to like build it up. Just don't overinflate your valuation and do it in the proper way. Because the reason we're at where we are now is because valuations were overinflated, and they still are massively overinflated.
Oh, I agree. I'm waiting for more to close up shop and us to like a lot of people are giving TSM shit for wanting to pay their players minimum salary in the league. I agree that it's a shitty thing to do if they're already tied to a contract and you're giving them a week or however long to change that. It's like, no, you agreed upon at the beginning of the year that this is the value. Just because they don't have a players union and they can't necessarily fight against you, don't be a dick. But I don't have a problem with going 80, 90K per player salary and breaking even. I don't see why that's you might not finish first and you might get slaughtered, but you know what?
It's a good outcome, to be honest with you, with the amount of money people spend now and get nothing out of it. So
I'd rather do that, and I'd rather take any excess money that you have for profit, or that, whether that's like league rev share or anything else, and invest that in the content creators and just start building a fandom separate from the players. Even if you're dead last, I can make content for dead last. I could still do, like, anybody could still do that. Like that, as you said, the content will always come first. If the pro players are not willing to do that content, then you need somebody else to do it for you.
Right. And that's been a hot topic that I've been seeing, because I saw, you know, Porty from C9, right? He tweeted that out about, hey, pro players need to really like worry about their brand and their content and all that. And if they're not doing that, what are we doing here? And while I tend to agree with most of the comments, the reason that we're even in where we're at is because orgs started spending crazy amounts of money on salaries and one-upping each other to get to this point of overinflated salaries, where it's like, oh, well, I'm making $1 million a year playing this game. Why do I give a shit about my brand? If I'm smart with the money I make now, I could technically be set for life, which is, I've always pushed for the opposite. My whole thing is use the pro platform to build your brand, so that way you have sustainability later on in your career. Just God forbid what happens, right? You never know. And how much long you can actually have a career in this. It's not like football, where if you're really good, you know, maybe you get 15 years. Like, or look at Brady, who's had a ton of, you know, longevity in his career. Like, you could be in the league for 3 and then you're done. So what are you going to do? But yeah, I think content really needs to be the forefront, and I don't think a lot of teams or anybody in esports actually does a perfect job of it, you know, quite yet.
So this is more of a directed question to your past with the two orgs. NRG is now likely coming into the LCS. Andy Miller is finally getting back in, which I'm happy for him. I've made it very publicly clear that I'm bullish on Andy Miller as an owner. I like the way he thinks. I like the way he handles his business, even if, you know, the NRG Fortnite shit's a little bit cringe to me. Fine, whatever. He still makes smart decisions. And, you know, I know Full Squad was a baby project that you had an eye on early on. Do you think NRG is going to be set up to succeed long-term in the LCS? And on top of that, with other teams selling, do you think there's a place for Optic with them?
I knew that was coming. I was waiting for the kicker
I have
there. I'll start with Optic because it's probably a quicker answer than the NRG one, because they're looking like they're going in. But I'll start with Optic. I don't see, and again, just to preface this to everybody that, you know, is listening and watching, I have no insider information on anything I'm about to say regarding Optic or NRG. I know nothing. I'm completely out of the loop, so let's not take this as I heard something. I don't see Optic joining the LCS. I wouldn't say ever, but not in the near term. I think Hector would, again, anything he touches, he knows how to build content around that. I just don't think that that's in his own head his model anymore. He's like more content creation and more pumping that out than like, let's go spend a boatload of money to pay people in league that we're not sure if we can monetize or do something with. Maybe that's not the answer you want to hear, but that's just my opinion on how I look at it. But
No, I get that. The logic, the window that I think of when it comes to that is, does Hex see a content potential involved with the LCS enough to the point where you can do it? Because clearly he has a very diverse portfolio of creators in Optic itself. Hitch is obviously a big name separate from the game. Scum, nothing to be fucking said there. But like, if Optic were to do it, would you have faith that Hex and company could do it right to the point where it's sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, they'll do the content right. I think. I mean, look, the Optic has owned Call of Duty. We all know this, but anything that they kind of go into, they always have a following that follows them, and I think there'll be a big passionate fan base that'll surround their LCS team, which is a question that I have on the NRG side that I'm not sure they will. So I have faith. I've always have faith that they're going to be able to go into a game and build something around it. I mean, look what they did in Valorant. They're the best team, and like they were pumping content out for that, and people were watching, and people are excited, and that one still is a dagger to my heart that that team got split up. But and then on top of it, look at that, right? That's another piece of the puzzle. Like, will Riot let Optic in? They didn't get a Valorant team, and they had the best Valorant team in the world. Like, I don't know what happened. I have no idea behind the scenes of what that's about. But that doesn't also bode well to them getting a Riot LCS spot. But I think if they did, yes, to answer your question, I think they would be successful.
That's all I want to know. We could
now
change,
on the NRG side, that's question. Yeah, NRG is different. So if they buy the spot, I know that the first time they were in the LCS was a big learning curve, and I think that it was a bit too much for them they bit off more they can chew because they never had been in the space. But again, I will give Andy faith, having worked for him for a while. Andy is very good with money, very good financially. When we have all these other orgs that are out there spending all this money in these different areas, and nobody's perfect, mind you, but he's kept the team relatively small in-house. And has always loved the idea of the competitive esports side, and they've gotten better at the content game, mostly with Fortnite and such. So I think that he can financially maneuver all of that, and I think his ideas on like league structure and maybe not necessarily, I'm not going to say like a collective bargaining if they decided to unionize the players, but bringing ideas in on the revenue and the league stuff, I think that would be a really interesting thing that he could add a lot of value to, right? Because he's now seen the Call of Duty League. He's seen the Overwatch League. Again, they're not perfect with Activision Blizzard. Riot's probably done a better job in the franchise system than Activision Blizzard has, but there are definitely some learnings between the two that he could probably bring to the table. But I don't know.
Shocker, the company that wasn't selling spots for 60 million is doing esports better.
Yeah, who would have guessed? Yeah. I just don't know if the fandom will be there. Again, you know this more than I would on if you think NRG can bring fandom, but I think that the audience that NRG has is very young from a demographic standpoint. Yeah. With like the Fortnite base and Rocket League and such. I don't know if they'd be able to pull in the more nuanced fan. And on top of it, the one downside is if it's buying CLG's spot and it's like NRG's going in, people are going to have initial animosity towards that just because they're killing a household brand that kind of went in there, even though they're not buying CLG. They're just buying the spot. So I don't know. I don't know. I would be curious what you think, if that you think they can get, fans to kind of watch them, or if they're going to be more of like an Immortals where they're just there and they exist.
Nah. So here's 3 predictions that I have for this. Let me establish this underlying precedent. I don't give a fuck about current LCS fans. I love all of you that follow me. By all means, I do. Anybody that listens to me here. But when it comes to developing the esports scene, we're already in it. We're already following the sport, and I don't care. Like, I know there are going to be some CLG fans that don't come back because their team's not here. League of Legends, more so than any other game, people are watching because they like the game. Like, I don't like Call of Duty. You watch for the personalities. There are some people that watch it because they genuinely love COD, but there's nobody that watches in the same volume as League of Legends. I think those fans are going to stick around. They'll find some other player to attach to, whether that's an older player or maybe somebody new and upcoming. They'll use this as like a catapult to go there. CLG fans, I just think they are what they are. For NRG, if I'm Andy Miller coming in, I'm not caring about the existing league fandom. I'm trying to bring in new people to the game in any
Yeah.
way that I can. I don't know what that entails. Personally, I'm a big grassroots guy. I I would rather NRG's not going to be the team to do this. They're San Francisco
Yeah, you want to
based.
see them come to New York and stamp their flag
Somebody give me a
in New York?
fucking New York team. If we
I
can
knew
fill
this
out
was coming
Madison
too.
Square Garden every freaking day for 12 straight days of Worlds, and the majority of those being from New York City or the areas around, I'm tired of people saying, oh, everybody flew in from China. It's like, no, we have a very high Chinese population density here. There's
Right.
League fans. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You gotta. I think they can do content more creatively than most. They have the right assets with full squad, with who's the dude that screams a lot and does like Wii Sports and like Super Mario Baseball.
Oh,
Is it Joe?
Aaron Ches. Aaron
Or
Ches.
yeah. Him.
Yeah,
Like,
he's one of the guys. I think he's got a loose affiliation to Full Squad.
yeah, they like Full Squad signed like a bunch of creators like loosely, but like you have
Yeah.
a network that extends so far beyond League of Legends. Those are the people that I'm looking at saying, okay, if I'm NRG, I've got 3 times the following on social media, and the majority of them probably don't even know what League of Legends is other than that game that their friend played and flames the shit out of them for it. I'd rather them work on that. I don't care if you're the least popular team in the league for 3 to 4 years. Just pound that pavement hard and it will work long term. Just
Right.
pick a brand message early on and stick to it, and I think that will work. If you are here for the long haul, people will inevitably come around to your consistency. As orgs rise and fall and collapse out of the league, people are going to need somebody to latch onto. And if your brand has been consistent the entire way through, that holds a lot of value to me.
Sure. That's interesting perspective, and I think it's probably the right, avenue to go. And again, as all things happen, as time goes by, people just, accept that you're a part of the league and you kind of move forward, kind of going past all of that. So, I mean, look, I know that Andy's always wanted to be back in league since I've known him. I know nothing right now of what's actually going on. But if everyone trusts Travis and his reporting on this,
That's
I'll
a
be
whole other
interested to
can of
see.
worms.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how they approach this and pan out. And I think their success will ultimately depend on who they actually could bring in to run their league operations. Because I don't think they have anybody in house right now that is like well versed enough in league to do that. And there's a lot of nuances I've learned over the years to league in comparison to anything else.
I will say to Andy Miller I don't know why this is popping up like this. To Andy Miller or anybody else that might see this from NRG, if you need somebody, let me know. I'm just saying. If there's somebody that knows league content and already does a weekly series talking about the games and recapping them for his favorite team, I could be persuaded. But
if I ever get in touch with them and they ever ask me for someone, David, you'll be the first person I push towards them.
I appreciate it. Look, I will add this caveat: the day that Optic comes into the league, you're losing me. That's the only risk you run. Like, I'm not gonna hide that. Green wall till the day that I die, and if they're back in the LCS,
I will give you that.
then
You definitely are green wall to the day you die. You bleed green. I can respect the fandom on that. And who knows? Maybe one day, again, I don't know their financial situation, but who knows? Maybe one day Optic goes, yeah, we're gonna go in the LCS because we can bring a different set of fans over, right? That haven't watched the league in a while.
I'll be honest with you. I was very pessimistic on the future of Optic for a while. And I think I've come around more to them over the last 8 to 9 months than I did prior. And I think Scump's retiring signaled that more to me than anything else. Just the way, not only the way that they were treated, but just the understanding of how to do watch parties, how to create all of this content around it. Their channels, like the Optic Audio channel, has been doing very, very well. Hitch and Maniac kind of fill that niche of, just casual content creator, but not too big, like the kind of medium size. As long as they're not overspending, that's sustainable. And I think that's an easy model that follows kind of in Barstool's footsteps of like, if you can get genuine fans of the org that help you into new esports or new areas that people are familiar with. So here's how ideally I would have it done for Hex. If they're thinking about getting into the LCS in 2 years, sign a mid-sized content creator that loves League of Legends and is also a massive Green Wall fan. To be clear, that's not me. I'm not talking about myself. Have them slowly start talking about League of Legends bit by bit. And as you're working on the deal, it is what it is. And then the moment it's announced, bam, this Optic creator has their own podcast, their own content series, and everything starting with the Optic League of Legends scene. Then the Green Wall has somebody that they're already used to that spins off immediately into that separate game. NRG could do the same thing. If you have a content creator already in-house that genuinely loves League of Legends that the fans are familiar with, have them start doing their own stuff. Give them a content series. Give them the NRG League of Legends YouTube channel and TikTok and just like let it start pushing it hard.
I wouldn't doubt if NRG actually did that. It's kind of the model that they've kind of taken into a lot of different things is like go find a creator that can go build you into that audience if they haven't already. That's what they kind of did with even Minecraft. That's what they did with technically, I guess, Fortnite in the early days. When that was kind of, I can't believe that was a competitive game. Wild. But I think that they can. I think that'd be a model that they would definitely like look into and do on their own.
I just don't think you can sign anybody big though. Like as much as FlyQuest recently signed LS, which by all means great, and their YouTube views are popping off now because of that. But how many of them do you think are actually going to stick around afterwards? How many people do you think LS is actually going to make a FlyQuest fan rather than just another LS fan? And when LS leaves in 2 to 3 years, assuming that he does because he's a T1 fan at the end of the day, how many of them actually stick around? I'm not sure.
That's a great question. I mean, that's the other part about stickiness, and that's another bigger issue that esports has as a whole is the lack of stickiness. I mean, I can't tell you, especially early days, how difficult it was to actually get a sticky fan for an organization. Like Optic kind of had that machine, so you didn't have to worry about it. That's why Huntsman had it. But like early days of NRG when we were there, it wasn't that easy. Like with the Shock, at least we had the geolocation. At least we had the Bay Area in order to kind of attack. But it was a new game, and people just kind of gravitated towards that. It wasn't like an established title. But that's a one big problem. You don't want to go into the LCS with and just exist. You want to go into the LCS and you want to actually like have part of that market share, especially if you see that title and you see Riot going to be like the big dog, which they are now, obviously, more than anything else. So it's interesting. But there was one thing I wanted to say before I forget. The person you had on earlier asked a question about why people build these crazy, obnoxious arenas. Sorry if I'm segueing to this.
No, you're good. I got 1 minute till I got to wrap.
Yeah, I know you got a minute. So I'll answer this real quick. I don't have a good answer for you on why they do it. To be completely honest, I can't say like with certainty why people go and build this, but I will tell you that the vibe that was going on when the VCs were investing was they looked at the numbers and they thought that professional video game players, esports, not the gaming and content creation side, was going to be usurp traditional sports and different viewership metrics very fast, and they thought that they could just instantly make revenue on it. That's why all this money got dumped into it, which was all why you had these salary wars, in my opinion, of people trying to get the best players to build it, which also brought into the fact of, okay, well, how do you entice them to play with you as well? You got to give them a house to build camaraderie, and then you got into this whole performance side, and there's definitely something to it, but they just went, when you get so much money, you just do it so quickly. That's kind of how I think most of these people viewed it and built it that way. And I think they've all learned the hard way that money doesn't grow on trees, and they've taken a real understanding of risk management now across the board. But I think that was the primary driver. It's like, okay, we need to win. We need to do this. We need to build facilities to facilitate that, and take the whole traditional sports model. And they were listening to those types of people, and it was obviously the wrong move, if you ask me.
Gotcha. Well, with that, I do have to end this like now. I gotta get over there. So to anybody watching on VOD, Joe's socials will be linked in the description down below. For those watching live, check out my Twitter. He's tagged on there. And Joe, I will have you back on whenever Paul's here because we could have a much longer discussion. But I gotta.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk more, and we can get into more of the weeds of the financials if people find that interesting. So thanks for having me on. Peace, guys.
See ya. Have a good one. Thank you so much, chat.